Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to Art Toast Live at Cafe Coda. I'm Margaret LeMay, founder and owner of Marzen, Integrated Art Group's Fine Art Showroom and Gallery. Very happy to be here streaming live from Cafe Coda and to be co-hosting the group exhibition From Here On Out with Cafe Coda. From Here On Out is an online and gallery exhibition celebrating Black lives and Black artists and at Marzen. Inspired by the murals painted in the aftermath of the protests this summer in Madison, I felt compelled to keep the conversation going. It's important that we stand in solidarity with Black Lives Matter movement because I recognize that silence is violence, and that was really the inspiration for this show. And as an art consulting firm and gallery, we acknowledge that artists of color have been underrepresented in both art institutions and commercial galleries. So we want to do our part to change that going forward. Several of the artists in the From Here On Out exhibition are already gaining greater exposure and making sales. We're continuing the call for artist submissions for the group exhibition From Here On Out on the Integrated Art Group website. The exhibition has been extended to Sunday, May 2nd, and we're keeping our fingers crossed and planning to have a closing reception that day. We got snowed out, and with the COVID restrictions in October, we had a small gathering indoors, but we're hoping to bring it back outside and have an event with drum circle and Hannah John Taylor playing, live painting outdoors, and check back to the Integrated Art Group website for information on that. Sunday, May 2nd. I encourage artists, especially artists of color and other underrepresented minorities, to submit your work to Integrated Art Group. We provide art services to an array of clients across the country, from healthcare facilities, professional workspaces, and commercial and residential clients as well. A sincere thank you to our sponsors, Cafe Coda, Madison Music Experience, Dane Arts, Amonte Art, Douglas Art and Frame, Moyer Art, Picture Frame Company, Unity Point Meritor, Susan Thompson of Action Coach, Artisan Dental, and many other generous community members and arts patrons making this exhibition and reception possible. And please give Cafe Coda some love. This pandemic has been especially hard on venues such as this gem in this community. So keep Coda alive with your generous support at gofundme.com. Keep Coda alive. So I'm so really happy this evening to welcome Judith Adrian and Philip Salamoni. This evening's program will include conversations with them on the work of DarRen Morris, a Wisconsin incarcerated artist. We'll begin with Judith and Phil providing a brief overview and background of incarceration of Black Americans. We'll talk about and see a video clip from Phil's projects, Faces of Incarceration. Judith will read excerpts from her projects in Warm Blood, and we'll have a clip of DarRen's interview with Gilman Hosted if time allows. We'll also talk about the 2020 mural by DarRen Morris painted on the Overture Center. Judith will talk about the original painting, and Phil will describe the process of translating DarRen's painting to the mural. So let's dive in now with introductions. As I mentioned, I'm Margaret LeMay. I've always had a passion for art, and in 2008 founded Integrated Art Group. Integrated Art Group's a full-service art consulting firm in Madison with nearly 25 years in the industry. My company's access to world-class artists provides our clients with exceptional resources, bringing art to life. Marzen and Cafe Coda are co-hosting this online and on-site fundraising event and art exhibition From Here On Out. The exhibition, as I mentioned, is extended to Sunday, May 2nd, and with the closing reception being planned that day, check back with more details to come. So I'll start with a little bit about DarRen Morris. DarRen is serving a life sentence at the Green Bay Correctional Institution. He now uses his free time to inspire youth going down the wrong path to make better choices through his art and writing. In 1994, DarRen Morris was convicted of being party to first-degree intentional homicide at the age of 17. To tell his story, Morris wrote a book called In Warm Blood with his co-author Judith Adrian. A teenage Morris and a group of friends mistook a man sitting in a pickup truck for a rival gang member and stabbed him to death. Morris maintains he knifed the man in the shoulder while the others inflicted the fatal stabs to the heart. Morris was convicted of being party to first-degree intentional homicide. He is eligible for parole January 24th, 2095. At that time, he would be 118 years old. Once a former hustler and gang member, Morris now uses his time in prison to paint. Must paint. It is his way of enduring life, his life sentence, given at age 17. In prison, he is limited to student-grade acrylics and some pastels. He can never stand more than 4 feet from his work to gain perspective. And he paints from his African, Jamaican, and Rastafarian roots. He often paints semi-self-portraits because there are no models for his portraits inside. DarRen will try and call in, if possible, at some point during the evening. If that call is able to come through, we'll segue to Judith so we can hear DarRen speak. So a little bit about Judith Adrian now as well. Judith holds a PhD in adult learning from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and a BA and MA in English from Luther College and Winona State University. In recent years, she worked at Madison College and then taught at Edgewood College, both in Madison, Wisconsin, until her retirement in August 2018. Judith has written 4 books: Because I Am Jackie Miller, In Warm Blood, Tara's Tale, and Nancer the Dancer. Currently, she is capturing the biographies and memoirs of people whose stories would likely be lost in our busy and complex world.
Margaret,
Yes.
the video is currently frozen, so I'm going to have to try restarting the stream quick.
Okay. So
I would say just let people know that, I don't know.
Okay, we're having a little bit of technical difficulty. Hang in there with us. We're going to restart the live stream and see if we can get the video going again. Can they hear me, Micah? So while Micah's figuring out our technical difficulties with the video, I'll talk a little bit about In Warm Blood. In Warm Blood is a book that Judith Adrian and DarRen Morris co-authored, a 2015 USA Best Book Award finalist in the multicultural nonfiction and true crime nonfiction categories. In this fictionalized biography, authors Judith Gwinn Adrian and DarRen Morris shared stories of privilege and prison, hurt and heart. Epistolary accounts of 2 people raised in the parallel universes of southeast Wisconsin and northern Illinois. After serving 3 months of a 15-year sentence for armed robbery, Judith's father's privilege allowed him to join the military and then become a physician and medical researcher. some of his research actually involved human experimentation on prisoners. DarRen, at the age of 17, was sentenced to life in prison for murder, with a first possible parole date of 100 years. He has now served more than half of his life in Wisconsin maximum security prisons. He has become Rastafarian and a uniquely talented artist. And Judith states, to me, DarRen stands as a metaphor for the 2.5 million people we have locked up in this country. So it's telling one person's story who's inside and helping us better understand that there are human people inside, that they may be behind us in line at the grocery store tomorrow. How are we doing on technical, Micah?
It's still a little frozen.
Hey,
I
darling.
don't want to restart it and lose all of our viewers.
Sure. Okay, we're hoping the visual will come back. I think in the meantime, I'll just continue with my introductions. Like to give a little introduction about Phillip Salamoni as well. Phil is a longtime friend of DarRen's and an artist who recreated one of DarRen's paintings as a mural on the front of Mimoka. Phil was born in Madison, the Atwood Atelier, which he'll tell us more about. So, with those introductions, I'm going to turn it over to Judith and Philip and let you guys dive into some of the information about background and overview of incarcerated Black Americans. So, please.
Thanks, Margaret. So should I share my screen or is
Yep.
the visual working?
Absolutely. We've got visuals back up. Go ahead and share screen, Phil.
Okay, cool. All right. Judy and I just wanted to just do a quick broad overview of the U.S. prison system. I think a lot of people might know some of this, but a lot of it is just really disturbing and disgusting, and it's just kind of like briefly looking at this, you don't really have to dive in to be really horrified at what's been going on if you don't already know. Right now, 25% of everyone in the world who's incarcerated is in the U.S. Even though we only have 5% of the world's population, 25% of the world's prisoners are in the U.S. It's absolutely disgusting. And we also, Wisconsin actually has the highest incarceration rate of African Americans by far. It's 13%, the national average is 6%. And the zip code in Milwaukee, 53206, is the most incarcerated zip code in the US. So you just kind of wonder what percentage of these people are perpetrators and what percentage victims of some degree. I think a little of each to some extent. And so looking at this graph, you can really see how the prison population boomed in the mid-70s. A lot of that was Nixon's war on drugs. And a lot of that is a product of things like mandatory minimums, 3 strikes, you're out, truth in sentencing. Truth in sentencing is mandating that prisoners serve the entire sentence that they were sentenced for. And it was effective retroactively. So judges would make these sentences knowing that the people wouldn't serve the entire sentence if they were on good behavior. But when truth in sentencing came along, all these people were stuck there now because it wasn't effective. It was effective retroactively. And just about the war on drugs, so many drug wars started because of racist tendencies, ginning up just things with the Mexican Americans and marijuana, and Chinese Americans with heroin, and Black Americans with cocaine. And right now, 46% of everyone in prison is in there for a drug charge. If you ask me, that's reason enough to legalize marijuana across the states. And so this is not a broken system. It's a system that's working exactly as it was intended. It's not a bug, it's the feature. It's an extension of slavery. It's an extension of Jim Crow. It's private prisons, people are getting rich. It's a way to keep populations down. You have 60% of the prisoners in prisons are Black or Hispanic, when they're only 25% of the population. And that's such a crazy disparity to me. And just things like the disparity between the crack and cocaine sentencing, where it's like 1 gram of crack gets you the same sentence as 100 grams of cocaine. Who's doing crack and who's doing cocaine? Some of that has been changed, and things are sort of changing, but it's really disturbing. And I just want to talk real quickly about parole and recidivism, because 77% of people who come out of prison, within a year, they're back. 40% of everyone who goes to prison in the state, at the state level in Wisconsin, didn't even break a law. They just broke a parole violation. And they're like beyond capacity, the prisons too, by the way, if you want to talk about money. But you could go back to prison for a parole violation. Might mean you were late to meet your parole officer. It might mean that you bought a car without telling the parole officer. It might mean that you talked to someone you weren't supposed to talk to. It might mean that you, hearsay in Wisconsin is one of the few things you can get sent back to prison just because someone said you did something in Wisconsin. One of the guys we painted, Jeff, someone accused him of something. He went on trial and was found innocent, but the parole board can revoke that, also known as a revocation board. And so he went back to prison for 4 years, even though he was found innocent. And you hear stories like that over and over and over again. It's very, very hard once you're out of prison to stay clean, basically, between trying to find a job and housing and mental health, and just the obstacles make it very difficult. And 95% of people in prison are getting out. They're not in there for life. And so there's just so many facets of it that need reform. And I didn't even talk about the private prisons, the prison labor, which the average wage is 63 cents. How is that not legal slavery? It's so disgusting to me. I don't know. Did I miss anything, Judy?
One thing about the cost. So in the state of Wisconsin, we spend around 1.5 billion with a B dollars on our corrections each year. And interestingly, Minnesota, which is about the same size, has half of that cost because they have more alternative programs. And the other thing is that we're spending between $30,000 and $60,000 per prisoner per year. That varies depending on their security level and their health. So the cost is part of it as well.
It's so disgusting. But you do see things starting to change, like this First Step Act right here. This kind of downward slope, I'm cautiously optimistic because people are talking about it. Just the tough on crime rhetoric has you just don't hear that as much. And I think it's one of few things that Republicans and Democrats can agree on. I actually feel like that's one of the few things I agree with Trump on, was that First Step Act that he passed. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but there's such a long ways to go.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's jump in just because I don't know how much time we have.
We have
So
a whole hour.
in 2017, I put this show together along with Pat Dillon and a bunch of members of my studio, the Atwood Atelier. We'll have people come in and model. That's what all these paintings are from. They'll pose nude. We'll do portraits, and then so for a little bit we put together the show for the overture where we had people who had been incarcerated come in, and I just wanted to put a face to all these statistics that you hear, and just put people on a stand and hear their stories and really see them and study them, a population that maybe isn't accustomed to that. And so this was actually the highest attended reception in Overture's history. It was a really powerful show for, I think, a lot of us. And so here's some kind of scenes from the reception. These are some of the models, and we had a panel discussion. We also did a screening of the movie, Milwaukee 53206, which is about that zip code in Milwaukee. And this is Rudy. Rudy was incarcerated for 19 years. He was supposed to be serving a life sentence, but they found out that he didn't actually commit the crime. And we painted him on the 1-year anniversary of the year that he was, of the day that he was released. So it was really powerful painting, and a really powerful day for me. And he's a friend. We play chess together. And this is his brother, Sean, who was also released, and he's a personal trainer now. And James, and there's James again. So these are just my paintings, but everyone who joins my studio did paintings of these people. I'm just showing mine in this presentation. This is Jeff. He modeled for us a bunch of times and become a friend. Jesse and Jerome, and a lot of these people are very active in the prison movement. Khalif was in solitary confinement for 10 years. 10 years in solitary. International standards call it torture if it's more than 13 days. 13 days is the international torture standards. DarRen spent, at one point it was 180-day stints. I don't know how many, you might know more than I do, Judy. I don't know, but 10 years for Khalif in solitary. Melissa, Mike, he wasn't part of the show, but I painted him after the show, but he had been incarcerated. Frank. Everett Mitchell hadn't been incarcerated, but he's a judge and he's very active in making things right, and I just felt like he needed to be a part of that show. Here's a watercolor of Jeff again. We did a number of Jeff. He posed a bunch of times for us. Adrian, Jesse, and then so here we can talk a little bit about maybe let's talk about DarRen, and then if we have time at the end, we'll do that quick video. Does that work, Margaret?
Sure.
Okay. So yeah, here's a couple pictures of DarRen, and I'm gonna let Judy kind of do the talking here because she knows him better than I do and has a much longer relationship with him.
We met in about 2010 when I was going to the prison with groups to talk to the prisoners. And we went once a week for 3 years. This picture shows how DarRen and I are different in every possible way. He's a foot taller than I am. He's male, I'm not. He has a prison arrest record that I don't have. He's obviously different in age. So the things like that both pushes us apart and brought us together. And you can see the background in this painting, in this picture. The prison does that to try to make you think you're taking a photo outside. They have all these seasonal pictures that they put behind you.
And this is kind of how I met him. When we had that show at the Overture, I saw these little flyers, and on the third floor of the Overture at that point, Judy had put together a show of DarRen's work. And I was just really struck by this image, and then I read a little bit about him, but didn't really do much after that, and then saw his work again at this other art show, Dabble, Dane Arts by Local. Judy had a booth of his work, and again, I was really touched, really powerful paintings. And then again, at the Moses, I guess it was the annual meeting or something of Moses, we had our Faces of Incarceration series, and then I saw his work again, and again, I was really moved. And so I just reached out to him initially because I thought he could maybe, I guess my initial thought was instruction, although I don't do any instruction. We talk a lot about art and we talk about a lot of stuff, and sometimes I'll explain stuff, but it's not a kind of mentor relationship. But it's more of an art friend, which I think is kind of more important. I mean,
Yeah.
anyone who does art knows the value of having someone to talk with about these ideas and show the work and just, you know. So yeah, this was the first image I seen of him that introduced me to him, and that's a self-portrait, obviously.
And then this is joyful for him to have someone to come and talk to. And that last one is Rasta in the Lion's Den, a takeoff on Daniel in the Lion's Den. And interestingly, the symbol for Rastafarians are lions.
Yes.
So here he is among the lions, who is the prison itself, and he's also one of the lions. So it has double meaning.
That's a Rubens painting. I didn't even realize that. Those lions are from the Rubens painting, Daniel in the Lion's Den.
Yeah.
I'll point that out to him. I didn't even notice that.
And these two are from paintings that he's done from inside the cell. What we're going to do is I'm going to read a few excerpts from the book that DarRen and I co-wrote, and I'm going to read one about these two paintings. It's the judge's sentence to DarRen when he sentenced him to 100 years at age 17. And these are the words the judge said to him. The journey you started when you joined a street gang as a youth will end when you die in a cold, dark prison cell someday. There will be no family. There will be no friends. You will have gone nowhere. There will be nobody. There will be nothing. If the prison guards in that prison are kind enough to give you a piece of paper and a stamp, I suggest you write to your gang friends and tell them what the gang did for you. Tell them what the gang will do for them. Maybe in that way you can add something to this world. The cruelty of the statement, and then the way he has taken, oh, here he's calling us right now.
Oh, awesome.
Wonderful timing.
So cool.
Okay,
I have a prepaid call from where?
can you hear it?
Yes.
Inmate at Green Bay Correctional Institution. Your account balance is $32.
You
And
can hear it, Judy. Great.
Good.
hear the charges for this call. Press or stay 2. To accept this call, press or stay 5. To refuse it, all calls other than properly placed attorney calls may be monitored and recorded. Thank you for using IC Solutions. You may begin speaking now.
Welcome, welcome.
Welcome.
We are on the air and we're showing the painting of soon to be available.
That's one of my favorites.
What's up, Duran? How's it going, Duran?
That's Philip.
Hi, DarRen. Nice to meet you.
Augusta, yeah. Let's go on to the next painting, Phil. We're going through the paintings and you can talk about them.
Well, or just anything you want to say, Duran,
Yeah.
at all.
I understand that.
We have Animal in a Cage up right now.
I didn't understand the comment before. What did she say?
We have, Philip says anything you want to say, but we're showing your paintings and we have Animal in a Cage up right now.
I mean, sometimes people ask me, like, where do I draw inspiration and, these sort of things. Or, what happens when I run out of inspiration. I haven't had that happen because, from the beginning of my, time as an artist, which goes back to like the 2nd or 3rd grade, it was always about self-expression, about something, me expressing a thought or feeling or something like that. So it's been with me so long that it's become a part of who I am. It's no different than it would be no different as someone else getting up brushing their teeth on a daily basis. So I don't really have to think about inspirations and things like that. My whole life is an inspiration,
Yeah.
So when I have those sort of paintings like Animal in a Cage, it was an expression, trying to convey the message of, prison and how the isolation, how it affects you. It's kind of like when I see the prison movies and they show, they show everything as gray and bland, and the food is, like slop. It's an artistic portrayal to try to get you to see that even if you had, let's say for example, a Big Mac every day, because if that was the only thing you ate for 40 years, it would become bland. You know what I mean? That would be the opposite. So when you have something that constantly pushes and presses up against you, it reshapes you, remolds you. It changes your whole perspective of every experience that you've ever had. So, for me, they come out in those sort of paintings.
We have the next one is you looking through the trap in TLU.
Yeah, and it's really funny how, there's a window right above that trap, so you can see out of this window anytime you want. But for some reason, when they open that trap, and there's that feeling of, air that's flowing through there, it's just everyone just goes through this, and I would be lying if I didn't say that just for that slight change, it didn't seem to make a huge difference, And it's like, to me, it felt like that's what it must feel like to be close to being released to prison. You're that close for that extra little bit.
Yeah. And this would have been in segregation. The next one we have up is Hands Down, Community Up. Angela.
Yeah, which one? I remember doing like 2 versions of that.
You did. This is the Hands Down zone. And there's some windows up in the clouds showing people dancing.
Is that the James Brown one, or is that the other?
Maya Angelou. That one.
Yeah, and that was another thing, like you remember these experiences, from the neighborhood, and you start to, there was a woman who used to sit out on the neighborhood stoop, and it was like she had a daughter, and that was how they would sit, like the main picture in that painting, and they would sit on this little stoop thing like that, and I swear she would comb his girl hair for like 8 hours. Every time I would, I'm going here, playing kickball, dodgeball, basketball, whatever. And each time I pass her to go one place or the other, she's doing the same thing. She's playing. So I had all these experiences, and their experience in life has been the same thing for the last 5 hours. So that sort of thing would stick with you, you know what I mean? And there was people in the neighborhood who were dancers and things like that, and they would turn the music up and be outside dancing or be out on the little stoops dancing. So those sort of things come together, and to me, for one painting, even though they're different experiences, to me it's an extension of the same experience. So and it's another thing from another opportunity, another attempt at me showing how the world is much different than what people think it is. Yeah, bad things happen, but there's a whole other side of life in the inner city that that's not on the news.
Well, and the next one we have is Jumping Rope, which indicates the same thing. One of my favorite parts about Jumping Rope is the tagging on the back wall that you didn't cross out.
Yeah, the graffiti, yeah.
All calls other than properly placed attorney calls may be monitored and recorded.
So be on your best behavior. Right, so, but those sort of paintings, when I did that in that painting, I was trying to convey the message of how things change and yet stay the same. All these different gangs that come through this area claim it as their own. Something happened, changed that, so now here it was, a new gang crossed out the old gang's name, put the new gang's name up there, and then the cycle continued. And then you have the names of all the people, who have died, and their names been sprayed up on that wall. And so that's where the graffiti idea on that wall came from, was how, this environment is so many different things for so many people. It's a funeral home, a memorial site, a playground, where someone grills out, have the best barbecue in town. All these things that's happening in this one spot, life, death, joy, happiness, hate, love, all these things are happening in that one spot.
Yeah. And there's a little pot growing in the front?
Yeah. So, it's just, to me, that's like those are like the basic elements of a painting. The classics had light and dark, to create, perspective and things. And that's what changed, the painting, from what I've seen in different books.
Okay, now we've got 37th and 48th on the corner.
Yeah. That's a stoop I used to sit on. That was the stoop I sat on, and that was the view from it. Just coming up, as a kid in summertime, especially like early in the daytime, I would be on that stoop, most of the time eating my breakfast, sitting there and just watching the neighborhood come to life, especially in the summertime. You would see the little kids out more earlier in the day than you would later at night, because, later at night it get a little dangerous, so they disappear. But when I would sit there and eat my breakfast, that was pretty much the sort of thing I would see, And so I've seen it so many times that image is kind of, locked into my mind. I can pull it up anytime.
That's an interesting piece, because these memories, these paintings are from a very long time ago. You've got the memory.
Well, my life is from a very long time ago.
The next one is They Say I'm Crazy After Party.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's a rapper that was, at the time, he's controversial now, but at the time he had a song came out, and all the radio stations and things were blasting it. And at first I thought it was the most annoying song I'd ever heard. But then one day my roommate was playing it. I was actually listening to it, and the lyrics was pretty much repetitive, rhythmic drum beat, and he just kept saying, "I'm coming home." And I could hear the desperation in his voice. And come to find out, it was actually written, a song was written about his experience going to prison and things. And I could feel it, he just kept, shouting the refrain with such passion, "I'm coming home," And I was like, yeah, I feel that. And then it just kind of put that painting together as I thought about all the various aspects of that song in my own life and experiences.
Okay, we've got the Jamaican Day of Rest at Home up now. You're sitting there smoking, looking out over the Jamaica.
Yeah. enjoying the lamb's breast.
Yeah.
Well, it is. They did just have Ash Wednesday, right?
Yep. Yeah. Okay, we've got crashing waves up now.
Yeah. That one was, it's kind of weird. I was watching TV and I seen something. Like when I be watching different shows, I'm looking at the paintings and things on the wall behind the people. And that was one of the paintings, that was on the wall. When I was thinking about it, it was just kind of like I had this rough sketch on the back of an envelope or something. And when I seen that, but then I was painting around the same time as, the George Floyd stuff was happening, and all these different things were happening, with Black Lives Matter movement, how consciousness and everything was shifting. And I just, once again, I was thinking about how all these different elements, survive in one, and then you wonder, like, is this natural? But then you think about how that same sort of experience can happen in the natural world, where there's light, darkness, beauty, life and destruction, all co-mingling together to create something new. And that's kind of what that painting was, it's the same thing that's going on in culture and society. It's all clashing together. It's all,
All acts other than properly placed attorney calls may be monitored and recorded.
to a large degree, that has to happen, you know, because in order for the old thing to be overcome, it has to be, you know, exposed for what it is. And once you have that, then it crashes up against everything else, and then eventually, you know, one will crumble. And I believe that good will always overcome evil at some point.
I like that. I love the colors in that one. We have next two Amistad paintings. We have the original, and we have the one that you did for Derek.
I love both of those. One, because, you know, I hadn't heard of that particular artist before. I forget his name at the moment. But so when I heard and I seen those pieces and I seen the history where they come from and everything, I was just intrigued by that. And it just, once again, it takes me back to my own experience, you know what I mean? You know, being in a situation where, you know, I feel like I've been kidnapped and, you know, been overrun by somebody else. And now that I feel more enlightened, more conscious, I've, you know, fought back for that freedom, which is, you know, the best way to be free is into it, although you'll always, no matter what, you know, strive for physical freedom when you're captive. And that painting represents that same struggle, I think, you know, about the constant battles and things that have to go on within a person to remain free, you know, under hostile conditions.
Okay, we've got two.
I also love it because it's one of those little known facts, you know, little known stories that's told, you know, about history, you know what I mean? It's one of those, we hear about the slave ships and different things, but we don't hear about the slaves who existed more than what's portrayed in history, you know?
Yeah. We've got two.
remaining.
Okay.
We got one minute remaining.
Two Sugar Shack paintings here.
If we only got 1 minute.
Let's, Phil, go ahead.
Well, that just goes back to, you know, how my foundation of painting, my first connection with painting was through the Good Time TV shows. And, when my mother had originally, you know, when she and I first had a conversation about art, she made a negative remark, you know, that made me not want to continue to paint for a while. And it was through those paintings that I was able to, you know, refine my footing and actually dive deeper into painting.
Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, most definitely. You guys have a blessed evening, and I really appreciate all that you're doing.
Thank you,
I
Duran.
appreciate it.
That was slick.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear him talk about those.
Yeah.
Yes. Talk about planning.
Right?
Divine timing.
Well, should we just, I guess, that's most of the pieces, I guess, huh, Judy? We have a few self-portraits here. We should still kind of put in some of the excerpts that you wanted to read, though, I think.
Definitely.
If you want to, we just wanted to show some of the self-portraits, some of the very many self-portraits, and then talk a little bit about making art in prison. But is there anything any excerpts that you wanted to say about any of those pictures, Judy?
I'll talk about this one for just a minute. He says he has paint on every piece of clothing he owns, and he used to reserve a set of clothing just for painting, but now he's been told that getting paint on his prison greens is a violation. He's destroying state property. And then if you go to segregation, all your hobby supplies are sent out as a punishment, and you cannot get them back. So you can see here that he's painted on one of his prison shirts and sent that out, and we still have it, but he got in trouble. These two are part of the childhood abuse that was part of his growing up. From age 3 on, there was physical and sexual abuse going on. DarRen was the 13th of 17 children in the family, but they weren't all biologically related. And the older boys were abusing him. So the yellow ochre curtains is the apartment they lived in when Duran picked up a loaded gun and accidentally shot his mother. She's disabled to this day. And boy, in the closet, they would often lock him in the closet for days, at times for hours for sure, and leave him there. And these stories are part of what he and I wrote about in the book In Warm Blood. And there's the book. It's his backstory, part of how he got to prison. And he has painted several book covers for me. So this Tara's Tale is one that he did. And you could recognize the in prison picture on Written in Blood that another author did.
And then this was the Madison Museum of Contemporary Art asked me to put a piece on this wall of their museum during the Black Lives Matter protests, and I want to give Duran a voice for that. Felt a lot more appropriate, and so I chose this picture of his, which is a self-portrait, and we put it up there. Here's some progress shots. There's Judy and I on the right. And here's one of my friends, Palma, one of my first students actually, helping out right there. And there it is in all its glory. It's since been vandalized. And then we put up a show of Duran's work, and you can see that painting there. You could also see it in the background of Judy's screen there. So this show is right now, it's on Willie Street. On the 600 block, and it's kind of inside looking out because of the pandemic.
Phil,
And-
that's where I first saw Duran's work as well. During the pandemic, I would walk every evening, and when I saw the show, I thought, I've got to get this artist, into the gallery. So thank
Awesome.
you for coordinating that show.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never really know the impact that you have, you just put the artwork out there and you have no idea how much it resonates or not with people. And I'm really glad to hear that, Margaret. So that's all we have as far as slides. I did want to plug his website because all of these stories are on there. This is him hugging his brush. And they're really powerful stories, and I would just really encourage anyone to just pop over and read about his artwork and him. It's just really, really well done website. Mary Rose, a friend of ours, put together, and
Yeah.
it's just really powerful paintings. And then I wanted to, so his website is DarRenMorrisArt.com, and then my website is my name, Philip Salamoni, and I mention that because I have a fund. Well, it's not like a formal fund, but I raised some money for art supplies for him because art supplies in prison are ridiculous. You have to go through this one company and they jack up the prices and very limited supplies. And so this fund it's mostly art supplies, but it's really anything, soap or whatever. We could send him money, but again, the prison system takes like up to 40% of whatever money you send people incarcerated. And so we're just doing it this way. At some point, there'll be a more formal GoFundMe, but if anyone wants to donate to him, you could reach out to me, email or Venmo. And then Judy, those books are available on her website, and proceeds go to Duran's Art Supplies.
Right.
And
Yes.
I think that's it.
We have a video
anything
clip,
else
right?
you wanted to say, Judy?
I have one other segment I would read if we have a minute.
Yeah,
Got a
absolutely.
minute?
Okay. So this, the book is about, it's epistolary, as you said, when you first introduced it, which means we exchange letters. And so one spring I sent him a letter and I was describing a robin and what a robin looks like early in the spring. And this is what he wrote back. So that is a robin, dark sienna and cadmium red, I am thinking. Me and Sean has been watching a robin the past few days do exactly what you described. Walk and cock his head and then peck at the ground. We were wondering what sort of bird that was. There's things I've never experienced. I've never been out of prison as an adult. I've never held a turtle or a frog or anything like that. I didn't know that brown bird with the red chest was a robin. I've never tasted a raw blueberry or raspberry. I've never planted a tree, and I want to do that someday. I've never been kayaking or camping. I didn't get to go to prom, but I'm probably not the only one. I think it's so poignant to think about locking up a 17-year-old for life. And just by the way, there's a group, Wisconsin Alliance for Youth Justice, that's working to get the possibility of parole for 17-year-olds sentenced to life, because the Supreme Court said that is cruel and unusual punishment. So Representative Bowen from Milwaukee is working on the bill for that right now.
Yeah, so that's actually, the Supreme Court decided that 6 years ago, and in a rare instance, it's effective retroactively. So Duran's sentence should be up for reconsideration, but the Wisconsin legislature, I think, is dragging their feet or something. 6 years ago, the Supreme Court decided it violates the Eighth Amendment because it does. Because life without parole for a 17-year-old, Duran's like 44 now, 45.
Yeah. So 24 states have changed their laws. Wisconsin has not yet.
Wisconsin's the worst.
It is the worst. Did you guys still want to
So I
show
guess
the video
we could
clip at
end
all?
with
Or?
that video by
Yeah.
Johnny Justice? Or unless you had any other ideas, Margaret, or if you have any Q&A, I mean, we might be able to answer some questions.
I think
but
the video
how
clip
awesome
would be
was it that
good.
Duran was able to call in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we can definitely take a look at the video clip, and we can have some Q&A afterwards as well. So.
When you look in the mirror, you see your fathers, your brothers, your sons, your daughters, your sisters, your wives. The way that this system operates, everybody here has the opportunity to be exactly what we were. As a judge, the reason I chose to participate in this is that I've never been to jail, I've never been to prison. But I realize that when I put on that black robe, people respect the position and respect me, call me Judge Bishop. When I take off that robe and I come back to Dane County, I got my blue jeans on with my hoodie. People can't tell who I am and they treat me differently. And so, I wanted my face alongside of those brothers and sisters, because too often, we have this perception that because you have status or you have positions, that some way isolates you from the kind of racist bigotry that still exists when they have these misinterpretations of, like James said, what young black men should be. I'm not a threat to people because of what I've done. I'm a threat to people because of what I am. And when they do see us, it don't matter that we have positions. What they see all the time and what they have interpreted us to be is a narrative of fear. 2017, we still dealing with slavery. And that's the reality that a lot of us don't even want to look at. And everything starts from the top down. The government, the federal government, designs its system so that the state ordinances can fall in line with their national agenda. The system is definitely setting us up for failure. I come home after I finish citizenship in this country. I come home and it's hard for me to get a job. Home and they got all these HUD laws stopping me from getting housing. How am I supposed to function properly? And the obstacles are almost insurmountable. And when you're dealing with people who are coming home from the system, they don't train you on how to successfully integrate back into society in prison. Their workshops, their idea of a workshop is to give you a packet and tell you to study it on your own with very little resources and connectivity to the streets or any kind of a community when you come home. And so naturally, when the community catches wind that we're coming home, they're going to be afraid of us because they think that we're animalistic and that we somehow have lost our
When you look in the mirror, you see your fathers, your brothers, your sons, your daughters, your sisters, your wives. The way that this system operates, everybody here has the opportunity to be exactly what we were.
As a judge, the reason I chose to participate in this is that I've never been to jail, I've never been to prison. But you know, I realize that after I take, when I put on that black robe, you respect the position, you respect me, call me judge. When I
We're
Kind of an
back.
announcement.
We're back. So any other thoughts you want to add to the conversation, Judith or Phil?
Just thank you for letting us do this, and delighted that DarRen was able to call in right then.
Yeah, absolutely. Divine timing. It was good. Thank you so much. Thank you both for the work that you do, for bringing attention to this very moving, very important subject. I mean, reform needs to happen, and you never know what shape it's going to take or where it's going to start. So any little bit that we can do to be part of a change, I think, is important. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Art Toast Live. Want to encourage you to go to our website. This will be recorded. We have other Art Toasts on our websites as well. Join us for our next Art Toast, Friday, March 5th, with Milwaukee mural artist Tia Richardson. And again, a sincere thank you to all of our sponsors. Cafe Coda, GoFundMe.com, keep Coda alive. And thank you so much for all the work that you do. Have a great evening.
Okay.